I was very excited to be part of the project because I haven't had a chance to do a lot of work in dry farm vineyards. My role in this project to design the aspect of the project related to soil health and water storage in dry farm vineyards. As part of the study, we're looking at physical, biological, and chemical indicators of soil health. An example of a biological test that we did is soil respiration. An example of a chemical parameter would be cation change capacity, and an example of a physical parameter would be soil aggregate stability. The reason we're measuring these parameters is because that gives us an indication of how the soil is functioning, and we use that to assess, quote unquote, how healthy the soil is.
So I think doing research on dry farming is really important because there hasn't been a lot done in the past. And so a lot of times what I know is anecdotal. I think that what's going on underneath the soil, but we've never dug a soil pit in our vineyards, and we've never looked at soil moisture probes or ET sensors. So it's been really interesting to be able to kind of back up what we've already known about dry farming.
I've been working in the Napa Valley for a little bit over 7 years now, and during this time we have been developing a soil health database with the Soil Health Hub, and this database has hundreds of samples now where we have analyzed the same soil health indicators that we're doing for this project. That database is serving as a reference point to dissect what the new data means. Now, after looking at the data from last year and thinking about soil health in general in dry farm vineyards, the thing that I can say is that dry farm vineyard soils are really healthy. Majority of the soils that we analyze are scoring at or higher than what we would normally expect for these kind of soils, with only a small amount scoring slightly lower. In general, we try to work with farmers to minimize the amount of disturbance. And one of the things that this project is showing is that in dry farm systems, because this cultivation is happening in conjunction with compost applications and very healthy cover crops, whatever negative impact of tilling that could be happening is being canceled out. The cultivation that is happening in dry farm vineyards is not necessarily creating bad conditions for the soil, in the sense that it is not preventing the soil from doing its job.
Our vineyard, we have ET sensors and soil moisture probes. We are digging the soil pits in our vineyard and looking at soil moisture, so at bud break, when the soil is completely saturated, and at veraison, when the soil starts to become drier, and then post-harvest. When we had the people here digging the soil pits, the man who was digging them told me that he's never seen such expansive root systems and roots that were going so deep down, and he digs soil pits all over.
One of the most interesting things when we were digging the soil pits was to see how wide and how deep the root systems were spreading. Not only to see the roots going deeper into the soil, but actually laterally as well, to a point that it looked like the roots were connecting between the rows. So that tells me that these roots are accessing water from a much bigger volume than what we typically see in irrigated vineyards. Something that was really interesting was to observe that pretty much all of the samples that we analyzed, we were looking at the amount of moisture throughout the season. And when we look at the amount of moisture between veraison and then after harvest, we were noticing that through the deeper layers, there was more moisture in some cases at the end of harvest compared to veraison, without any irrigation, without any rain. So that is telling us that there is water movement happening from deeper layers, to a point that some of these soils ended up with a surplus of water at the end of the season.
I know that there's criticism on cultivation because of the impact on carbon, the soil health issues, but we're actually seeing that dry farm vineyards can have healthy soils.
Conducting research on dry farm systems is important, first of all, because we don't have a lot of data on these systems, so it's a learning opportunity. And at the same time, given all the challenges that California farmers are facing with climate change, drought, heat, changes in water allocations, dry farming presents an adaptation strategy to develop resiliency against an uncertain water future.